Could I ask a question before we get started? Clarity, purpose of clarity. Why am I here? Am I a good guy or a bad guy?
I think the prosecutor will ask you those questions, and he will lead us through that. I would try to speak for the court and things. You said that you are a witness, you would know certain things, and as the oath I just gave you to give testimony about what you know, not what you don't know, but what you know. If there's something you don't know, you may say you don't know that. But the indictments are accusation of slander, insubordination, and divisiveness. That's what he's been charged with.
There's some clarity before I start answering questions to know what direction this is going.
Can we look to our prosecutor to explain that, if he wishes to today?
Well, the reason you were called is because you were a co-signer of the 40-5 report.
I understand that.
That's the reason. Can you describe for us what efforts you made in order to determine whether these allegations are true or not?
So in a sense, I am on trial here.
No.
Yeah, these questions
I'm going to ask the witness, please let the prosecutor ask the questions in your knowledge trial. You're being asked with your witness, your testimony, what you know. Your knowledge trial. What efforts did you make to verify the allegations in the report?
I choose not to answer that.
Why?
I don't want to answer.
May
It's a matter of
May I, again, calling to the book church order as a witness, you're under oath. There are a lot of responses, but the equivalent of the Fifth Amendment, I take the Fifth, is not appropriate here. You must give some answer.
I did.
To a question.
I don't want to answer.
Point of order, can we ask why? Because you obviously have a reason for not wanting to answer the question.
You can ask.
I think I just did.
No.
As a witness, you are required to give testimony.
Point of inquiry. The charges in the indictment are for slander, divisiveness, and insubordination.
Correct.
And with Elder signing that letter, could he also be indicted for those charges?
That's a hypothetical question. I'll tell you, he's not. And just for further information, I'll tell you, there's no discussion in the session to do that. So I hope that satisfies your question.
Can we get back? I didn't get an answer to my question. So Rick was just simply asking what steps did you take to verify the truthfulness of that, if I'm not mistaken. You refused to answer. Just wondering why. I want you to answer that.
Well, you say that I'm not on trial, but you're asking me all these questions that sound like questions of a trial that could come back at some point because all of this is on record. So I'm going to be very hesitant to answer some of these questions.
The oath you just took was an oath of a witness to share what you know.
Okay, so you signed a 40-5 letter that makes by 9 count 8 allegations against Session, 4 against the Credentials Committee, and 5 against the North Georgia Presbytery. You're familiar with the Westminster law as an elder. Question 143 says the ninth commandment. What is the ninth commandment? The answer is the ninth commandment is thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Question 144 says what are the duties required in the ninth commandment? And of those duties, an unwillingness to admit of an evil report concerning our neighbor. Were you willing to receive an evil report, a report of wrongdoing against your session? Did you have a willingness to believe that report?
I was hoping that things would be investigated to assure that there was no evil doing.
Question 145 says, what are the sins forbidden in the ninth commandment? And among other things, misconstruing intentions words, and actions. Would you agree that there is some misconstruing of intentions, words, and actions when allegations are made? Don't you have a high likelihood of misconstruing why they did what they did? I would encourage you to read the letter again. I think there are conclusions made that those errors were made, and not just, hey, let's investigate this. So my question to you, are you in compliance with the catechism at that point?
Since it's been a while and understandably you don't understand all the details, what tonight do you stand by and with conviction maintain is true about this report?
Yeah, I thought this was a trial court, and it's turned out to be something different.
Well then, but tonight, I'd like to finish. Tonight, would you consider withdrawing your name from the letter?
No.
Why not?
When I signed it, I was convinced that I was in agreement with what I said, and I will stand by that at this point.
But you can't articulate even one thing that maintains your conviction tonight and keeping your name on the letter.
There's nothing that's dissuaded me.
Well, let me give an example then. No pulpit committee was used. That's a part of the grossly unconstitutional report. Can you defend that from our Constitution or from Scripture? Do you have a comment? Do you stand by no pulpit committee, therefore grossly unconstitutional?
There was no pulpit committee. I'm not sure what the question is.
No ballots were used. Is that grossly unconstitutional? Do you continue to?
I stand by that. Yeah. In the 35 years I've been going to this church, every time we had a congregational meeting, we have always used secret ballots.
Because the record is one way and the other. There's no, and the Book of Church Order doesn't make it clear one way or another. I would ask you to consider removing support for it, or at least reading the letter again.
Mr. Fish? Who have you served with here on the session?
Who what?
Who have you served with here on the session? And did I understand right that you haven't talked to any of them about this 40-5? Why?
I just haven't.
I understand that you haven't, but I asked you why.
I don't have an answer.
Are you satisfied with that answer? Do you stand by that? Do you think that's a good answer?
That is my answer.
I understand that.
Good or bad, it's my answer.
My question to you is that a good answer from you, ruling it? My question to you is that a good idea? My question to you is that a good idea? Are you proud of that answer? Is that a good answer? Would you recommend that somebody else give that answer?
Come on, Paul. I'm not going to answer that.
Maybe if I put this in a different scenario, I think you've done some gross unconstitutionality, and I think you've done some important deliverances, okay? I've got a list of them. What would you recommend that I do? Should I come talk to you about it? Or should I go talk to Bob Whitaker, get his opinion, and we'll draft up a letter and sign it and send it off to the presbytery about you without having talked to you? What would you recommend that I do?
I don't think that's germane to what we're talking about.
It is quite germane.
Please
answer the question.
I'm not going to.
Mr. Fish, just a follow-up question. Just pick one of these out, it's the last one. That the 7 respondents from the Midway session made a motion to send the first complaint to a study committee in lieu of voting on it up or down without debate. Then the Midway respondents sat, deliberated, and apparently voted to pass their own motion in flagrant violation of BCO 39-2. You understand that was all done in executive session?
1 Timothy 5:19, do not receive an accusation against an elder except from 2 or 3 witnesses. Do you have one witness of this allegation that was done in executive session?
You know, gentlemen, I feel like I'm here under false pretenses. You know, this getting into something this.
Point of order.
May I answer the question, please?
You may answer
Okay.
the question that I asked. You agree with 100% of this, otherwise you wouldn't have signed it. I assume you investigated it. I mean, it's pretty strong language, grossly unconstitutional, important delinquencies. 1 Timothy 5:19, do not receive an accusation against an elder except from 2 or 3 witnesses. If you had to do it all over again, would you change anything?
Can't do that. Can't go back and do it.
If you can,
I understand.
if you could, would you? Just based on what we just talked about here.
Just wanted to clarify, the reason you're being asked these questions is the accused elder is chosen not to testify. He has that right. But as a cosigner, it makes perfect sense to ask cosigners to give their understanding and to substantiate each portion of the letter. You're not under charges here, but since we can't ask these questions to the accused, we ask them to the witnesses. That's my opinion, but that is my view of why you're being asked these